Hey everyone, this is Ashley with theconfidentmom.com, and today I'm going to be sharing my experience with postpartum anxiety and depression. So honestly, I've been feeling like I needed to share this for a long time, and I'm finally doing it. And I hope that it can help some other moms out there who may be struggling with some of the same things that I struggled with or something similar. So I have 3 sons. My oldest is 8.5, my middle son just turned 5, and then I have an almost 2-year-old. And when my oldest son was born 8.5 years ago, we were so ready, my husband and I, we were so ready for him to join our family. We had been wanting to be parents for a while before that, and we had also had a miscarriage. And then on top of that, I had a really tough pregnancy, and I was sick a lot, and then got preeclampsia at the end of the pregnancy, and he ended up having to come C-section, and we got him here, and we were so ready for our little Colton to be in our family. So I did not struggle with postpartum anxiety and depression after having him. 3 years down the road, I was ready to have our second child, and there were some external factors that were adding some stress to me at that time. Finances were really tight. We had some big unexpected changes come up suddenly right before I had the baby. And I don't always do well with change, and just a few other things. Then our second was born. Again, I had another pregnancy where I got really sick almost the whole time, but we got our little boy here, and he was healthy. I adored him and was still loving being a mom, but about 5 weeks postpartum, I could tell that I was having an abnormal amount of anxiety. And I can tell you one of the main triggers for it. He was struggling with some digestive issues and reflux and coliciness. And I forgot to mention that we had struggled with these same things, similar things with our oldest son. And they had lasted a long time. And we had to have testing done on him and try to figure out what was wrong. I had done elimination diets, and it had taken a while to get some solid answers. In fact, there were certain questions we hadn't had answered about his digestive concerns yet, but things were going better. So our oldest son, it took him about 2 years to start being able to consistently sleep through the night because of his digestive issues. And it was stressful at the time, but I just had the one son, and I felt like we could do it. You know, Clint and I together, we could make it work, we could do it. And so when our second son started having some of the same health issues, but different, I think I had got my hopes up that we wouldn't have to deal with that with this next child, that he just wouldn't have the same, digestive issues. And also, I was having to do more elimination diets for our little family, and that's stressful. It's hard, right? So that's when I started feeling just really anxious. And I felt like it was out of proportion to my normal amount of anxiety. Just to give you a little background on me, I am a worrier. I have been a worrier my whole life, but before this, and I had tools I could use, and I could still push myself out of my comfort zone, and I don't know how to explain it, but and I could turn to my support system, everything. But when I experienced postpartum anxiety and later some depression, I I I really struggled. And so I talked to my husband when I could tell that my anxiety was abnormal, and he was super supportive and helpful, and we discussed our different options, and I decided to ultimately start with some natural methods of helping my anxiety and not do medication or counseling at that time. So one of the things that we did that was helpful is we set aside a certain amount of money on creative outlets because I love doing creative, crafty things. And so we did that. And then some other, quote, tools, I guess I would call them that I implemented for myself is, first of all, self-care. And by that, I mean your typical, like, try to take a shower and get dressed and sleep as much as I could. So one of the things that I think really affected me and my brain through this period of time in my life is I wasn't getting nearly enough sleep. And during the night, there wasn't a whole lot that I could do about that because I had some kids with health needs. And so I was having to wake up more often, and my husband helped me with that too, but I was nursing. By the time I had my second son, I really hadn't gotten great sleep for 3 years. So I really think that affected me, and I tried to take cat naps when I could and go to bed early. And then another thing that I did was I made social connection with other moms a priority. And this was hard for me. And part of the reason it was hard is, first of all, I'm a little more of an introvert than an extrovert. So it is hard for me sometimes to push myself out of my comfort zone and get together with other moms. And and then also part of my anxiety that I was experiencing was social anxiety. Not so fun. So I was feeling kind of isolated and not wanting or able to spend a lot of money on play dates and things like that. So anyways, so when I did get out with other moms, I noticed that I was a little awkward sometimes. And then, of course, my brain took that and ran with it. And I felt like I was just always going to be socially awkward from then on, since I had kids and I was spending so much time with the kids and not with friends that I just couldn't communicate with adults anymore, right? I wonder if any of you have felt this way. So, it took pushing me out of my comfort zone and, stopping the negative messages and thoughts that my brain was telling me to connect with other moms. One thing that I did not do well at this time is share my experiences and my struggles with other people. I was independent to a fault, and I also, was concerned about some of the stigmas regarding mental illness, and I did not share with very many people at all about what I was struggling with. And part of the reason that was hard is because I'm a verbal person, and I feel like I was unloading too much on my husband, first of all, to get his support, and my poor mom too, who was awesome support at that time. And then also, I feel like that was a bad thing because, looking back, because I really needed to hear about other moms that were at the same stage of life that I was at, that were experiencing similar things and what they were doing about it. And I needed to have that. And I did not do that at that time. Another thing that helped me was learning to be okay with the fact that I am an imperfect mom. And that sounds silly, but the perfectionist in me just had a hard time with the fact that I kept making mistakes, and a lot of the same mistakes, over and over as a mom and as a person and as a wife. And I had to learn how to show myself grace and just take myself where I was at. And that didn't mean that I could just, be okay with making the same mistakes over and over, and, and not set goals to be better and work on it. But I guess just not being as hard on myself. There are a few more tools that helped me as I was struggling postpartum. And first of all, humor was a big one. Humor has always helped me when I'm struggling with something. And then getting fresh air and exercise was huge for me. Over time, I slowly started to share a little bit here or there with some friends, and found out that there were more people struggling with postpartum anxiety and depression than I had thought. So I just mentioned depression, and I just wanted to bring that in because as time went on and I felt like my anxiety was maybe getting a little better, we were still dealing with health issues with both of our little boys, and I was still not getting enough sleep, and I just started feeling some depression as well. But it was painful, and it was these periods of just feeling low and so incapable of doing simple things. I was functioning. I felt fortunate that I was able to still function, but I know I was functioning at a lower capacity than I could. And that was frustrating and depressing, honestly. And I remember a few times at just a few low points that I honestly felt like my family and those around me would be better off without me. And it sounds awful that I felt that way, but I did. And I didn't take that thought any farther than that, but I thought that thought multiple times. I remember that. And this brings me to one of the most important things for me at this time. It was during those low moments, especially, that I felt like my prayers were so sincere, and I just would basically call out to God and tell him, this is really how I feel. I just don't feel like I'm able to do what I should be able to do for my family, for my kids. That I don't feel like myself, and definitely not my best self, and I'm trying, but I just don't feel like I can get there on my own. And I need thy help. And I felt comforted in those moments, and I know that the Lord was there and carrying me through those moments. Sorry, getting emotional here. But that was really important to me, is the prayer. And then so I was getting better over time, and then it was getting to the point where I felt like it was time to have another baby. And I still did not feel totally myself, I guess I would say. And so I wanted to go to a therapist. So I met with a therapist, and she felt like I was doing really well, that I had tools I could use when I felt anxious or depressed, but that I was in a good place. So that was reassuring to me and my husband, and we moved forward, and I got pregnant with our third son. So after another really sick pregnancy, we were very ready for our little Will to join our family. I did have C-sections for all of my sons, so that last C-section, it took me longer to recover, I could tell. But actually, that's interesting that I mentioned that, because now I realize that it got to the point where it was taking me longer to recover and be able to work out very much and all those things, and just do as much as I was used to being able to do around the house and with my kids and caring and things like that. And once it had passed that point where the doctors usually say you should be, good to do these things, and I was still having a hard time doing some of those things, that's when I started feeling some postpartum anxiety and depression again. And this time around, I basically went in and said, I was like, okay, I'm going to go get on medication. I have done a lot of different things, and I want to try medication. And so I did, going in with the mindset that I wanted it to be temporary. I wanted to be on the medication temporarily for various reasons. And I did notice a positive difference basically on day one of being on the medication. It really helped. There were some side effects, and that weren't awesome, but it definitely helped, and I felt more myself, and like I was able to, like I was laughing more again at the things that I used to, find funny, and my anxiety was not getting in the way. And so I was on medication for a little over 3 months and doing well. And then at the same time, I also started going to see a therapist, and I ended up going to a few different ones, and that was really helpful. I couldn't afford to go in all the time to the therapist, but the amount of time that I went in was, or how often I went in was still enough for me. And I went in to the therapist and basically said, listen, I have these different tools I'm using to manage anxiety and some depression, and I just really need some more help with stopping negative thought cycles. And that was the main thing I was still struggling with. And so I was able to get some more tools. It was also very helpful to just kind of unload about my struggles. And so anyways, so I did that for a while. And now it has been almost 2 years, almost exactly 2 years since my third son, Will, was born. And I'm in a really good place. And I can't say that I'm not an anxious mom, because I am a more anxious mom than I would like to be. I still worry about my sons being safe more than I would like. Now, I think part of that is because they do some risky things. But I am in a good place, and I feel good about where I'm at. And I'm a different mom than when I started out on this journey. But I feel like my postpartum struggles have helped me to be stronger and more empathetic to other moms, and that I have learned a lot along the way. And looking back, I'm actually really grateful for those experiences. So for those of you moms who may be struggling with this or something similar, I just want you to know that there is light at the end of the tunnel. There is. It doesn't feel like it right now, but there is. You are probably doing better than you think you are, a lot better than you think you are as a mom and as a person. And that support system is so crucial. And I wish that I had learned earlier just how wonderful it is to be able to share with other moms at the same stage of life as you who are going through similar things about your struggles, and be able to get some different helpful tips and advice, and just that reassurance that other moms go through this too. And anyways, I love you all, and I hope this was helpful to some of you, and I'll talk to you later. Bye.